OK， 大家好，欢迎回来，我是你们的好朋友英少，我又回来了。那么经过昨天的晚上的那么一段讲话，我觉得我的心情还是好了不少。我开始客观的去看待中国与其他国家之间的差别。我发现只要你的生命能够得到保障，很多人就愿意去放弃他们的一些权利。他们觉得把他们的安危交给某一个集体来管理，会使他们过得更加的安全。我当然是支持这样一个决定的，因为说实话，就那些有权利的人，他自己也是非常害怕人民去暴动、去暴乱的。所以总体来讲，他们把这些人的武力水平压制到最低，对他们自己也是有好处的，因为他们也不希望看到很多有暴力倾向的人，所以他们在处理这些暴力事件的过程中，是相当于间接的维护了这些人的安全。我感觉我讲了半天也没有讲到重点，可能今天不在状态。那要不然这样吧，我们今天不聊天了，我们想办法去做一些自我学习。这个雅思考试它的全称叫做它简称叫做 Ielts， 它全称叫做 The International English Language Testing System， 它是一种测试的一个标准，用来测试你的英语能力，然后费用是250 USD， 这个好像也不算贵哈，如果你一年考一次的话。OK， 我们能不能自己来做一个测试，来测试一下自己到底有几斤几两？我觉得我们是可以做这样一个事情的。OK， 那么就来做这一个测试吧。首先我们要做的是这个 listening parts， 我们要大概的测一下自己的这个听力水平怎么样。
You will hear a number of different recordings, and you will have to answer questions on what you hear. There will be time for you to read the instructions and questions, and you will have a chance to check your work. All the recordings will be played once only. The test is in 4 sections. At the end of the test, you will be given 10 minutes to transfer your answers to an answer sheet. Now turn to Section 1. Section 1. You will hear a conversation between a bank clerk called Jeanette and a man who is asking for information on investing money. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 4.
Wait, why he stops in there? Okay, let me just open a PDF file so that you could say the questions. The questions 1 to 4. Complete the table below. Write no more than 2 words and or a number for each answer. From here, we could say this is a Citibank customer service log. It's just some records for a deal or a service, right? And it got some information inside of that paper. So I guess the question here is that we need to answer those questions. For example, 1, 2, 3, 4. For now, it got nothing yet, but we will hear something from the audio. Then after we got some information, we need to input those information into those blank places so that we could fulfill the whole paper. I think this is the logic of this. So let's go on. I'm going to play this audio.
You will see that there is an example that has been done for you. On this occasion only, the conversation relating to this example will be played first.
This is Citibank. You're speaking with Jeanette. How may I help you today?
Hi, I'd like to ask a few questions about a term deposit.
Certainly. Do you currently have any investments with us?
The man is asking about term deposits. So term deposits has been written in the space. Now we shall begin. You should answer the questions as you listen, because you will not hear the recording a second time. Listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 4.
This is Citibank. You're speaking with Jeanette. How may I help you today?
Hi, I'd like to ask a few questions about a term deposit.
Certainly. Do you currently have any investments with us?
Yes, I do, but my term deposit is due to mature soon, and I've come to find out my options for renewing and extending it. I'm considering a range of different investments, to be honest, but I wanted to begin with the simplest option.
Okay, sir. Well, before we begin, I just need to verify your ID. Can I have your name, please?
David Marshall, that's M for
Okay, for the first question, it's the name of that customer. It said David Marshall, I guess, but even though I could repeat the name, but for my knowledge, I couldn't write it down because I don't know how to compose that name.
A-R-S-H-A-L-L.
Okay, so for this case, he just did a spelling for his name, so we could just write those alphabets, I guess. So for this case, we don't have to, try to figure out how to compose that word. We just have to write down it. That's easy.
Thank you, David. Now, I just need to ask you a couple of security questions. What's your mobile phone number?
023-561-055.
And your date of birth, please?
18th of February, 1968.
Right. So I've got your account information in front of me. You've currently got $18,000 on a term of 180 180 days. That's at a rate of 3.45% per year or per annum.
130 days, I guess, for the second one.
Okay, so what are my options? Can we start by looking at 1 and 2 year terms?
We can do that. Let's see. Right. If we put it on a 1-year term, we can offer you a yearly return of 3.65%, and for 2 years it's 3.7%.
3.7%. Okay, so this is easy. I don't know if this is a difficult problem or not, but we will continue.
Oh no, hang on. Sorry. We have a special deal on that term right now at 3.85%.
Okay.
3.83%.
So what does that mean in dollars?
Just one moment and I'll bring it up. Okay, so the total interest earned would be $657 for 1 year, and I'm just bringing up the 2-year figure for you. A 2-year term at 3.85% interest, that's a total of $1,412 interest on maturity.
Right, that's about a $700 difference.
Yes, a bit more actually.
Okay. Oh, a friend of mine told me he gets his term deposit interest paid into his account every month. Do you have a monthly interest option?
Yes, actually. We do offer that on term deposits, but only on investments of $20,000 or more.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 5 to 10.
Okay, I must admit that I do not have the answer of the 4. That's bad. Okay, let's go on. It seems like we got another table where
Now listen and answer questions 5 to 10.
Can I ask if you've considered a PIE as an alternative investment option?
A pie?
Yes, it stands for Personal Investment Entity. It's an investment trust. Your earnings tend to be higher than they are for a term deposit because 28% is the maximum tax on those earnings.
Okay, that sounds interesting. I've heard of those, but I've never really understood them. I thought they were called pies. They always sounded like something you eat. But I'd sure like to get a bigger slice of my investment pie.
Well, with a PIE, your investment return changes depending on how much tax you normally pay.
Oh, I see. According to my income bracket.
Yes, that's right. For example, on a 2-year plan, if you're earning in the range between $48,001 to $70,000 at 30% tax, there's a 3.75% effective rate on PIE earnings.
Okay, I'm actually on a 33% tax rate.
Well, that's an even better return. If you're earning between $70,001 and $120,000, the effective interest rate is higher too. So let's have a look for a 2-year investment. The rate actually goes up to 3.92%.
Wow, okay. So a PIE may be the better option. Better than a term deposit, I mean. And can I do that with an $18,000 investment?
Yes, the minimum deposit for a PIE investment is $10,000.
Okay, and are there any hidden charges?
No fees at all for investing in a PIE.
Well, that's good news. Oh, wait a minute. What about interest payment?
Okay, so for the hidden charges, it is no fees. At least I could get this answer.
Options. Is it the same as the term deposits? You have to have a minimum deposit to be eligible for monthly payments?
Let me check the options here. Well, you'll be pleased to hear that there's actually more flexibility with PIEs than with term deposits. You can opt to have your interest paid every month, quarterly, 6 monthly, or yearly.
Quarterly, 6 monthly. So for this blank, it should be quarterly.
Okay, well, that's given me something to think about.
Would you like to apply today?
No, I'll have to think about it. Thanks.
Certainly. If you do decide to go ahead with it, applications are processed in 2 days, as long as you have a bank account with us, which you do. You can apply on our website, by phone, or pop into one of our branches.
So the second application option is by phone, I think. So if you ask me whether this whole exam is hard or not, but I would definitely tell you that maybe, because I didn't get those information for the 5, 6, and 7, but for the later 3 blanks, I got the answer. So I think if you wanna, let's say if you wanna take this exam, you'd better do some preparation. Otherwise, you would end up like me. Okay, let's go on.
Great, thanks for your help.
That is the end of section 1. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Now turn to section 2.
Okay, the audio is ended in there. We need to switch to the section 2. I must say, this is not a good user experience. You have to click around to be able to hear those things. I think they definitely have some application on the application store where some people may did something to make the whole process of practice this exam become a thing that everyone could reach.
Section 2. You will hear a woman introducing the Lunar Realm amusement park. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 15. Now listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 15.
Good morning, everyone. We're very pleased to have you here at Lunar Realm for our September Celebration Day. We have many smaller celebrations throughout the year for different events. I think it was 5 at last count. But the September celebration is a special day to honor the park's development, from tiny beginnings to the huge enterprise it is today. It's
Okay, it is to honor the building of this park. So even though I don't know the meaning of the park, but I still could get the answer here.
our most significant annual event. Come into the visitor center now. Over here, you can see a picture of the original park when it was under construction. The land was donated to the city in 1955.
In 1955. So for this one, we should choose the A.
By the then mayor, Matthew Hardacre, but the park itself wasn't developed until 1979.
Okay, 1979. So the park is built on 1979, but before that, maybe that place was the ground was built on the 1955. I think this is the logic.
And you'll notice it wasn't very big at that time. Then there was a huge growth in the 1990s, and we're still growing today. In the beginning, there were only a few small rides in the park. There were lots of other attractions in those days, including an adventure playground for younger kids. The kids loved the petting zoo with its farm animals, and in fact, that's the only attraction to have survived until now. We've still kept
So it has a petting zoo, even though I don't know the meaning of that, but that's the only one that is still existed until today.
2 of the original rides as an exhibit, but they're not in working order anymore. We're now one of the biggest amusement parks in the country. We've got an amazing range of amusement rides here, 43 in total this year. I think we're most famous for our roller coasters, aren't we? I guess you'll all have heard about the Hurricane. That's our oldest and most famous one. Some of our visitors think it's not fast enough to be truly exciting, but we love it because it's the highest wooden roller coaster in the country. Then we have the Bobcat. That one's a bit gentler for our younger visitors. And for the truly adventurous, the Scream Machine hurls you upside down and backwards at huge speeds. It's too much for me. It's important to remember that all of our rides have age guidelines, and to help you, there's a color system. If the sign for a ride is yellow, it means it's suitable for all ages, although we do recommend that parents or older siblings go with very young children. Blue means that children younger than 14 can ride only if an adult accompanies them. And black, well, this means that you must be at least 110 centimeters tall to ride.
Okay, for this question, it says that the black line is an indicator that shows that you do not have the height for your body to maybe take that adventure or use that device. So for now, I think for what she says, I could understand them all. So let's go on.
Regardless of age. We should say that no rides are really suitable for children younger than 18 months, but we do have a special section for parents with babies.
Before you hear the rest of the talk, you have some time to look at questions 16 to 20.
Well, it sounds like we still have to fill some words into those sentences to be able to finish this question. I've never done such a thing before. I never see such
Now
problem.
listen and answer questions 16 to 20.
Now I'll tell you about the many options for food around the park. You can get a range of different cuisines, Italian, Chinese, and so on. All of that's in the food court in the center of the park, but there are lots of other places as well. If you want hamburgers, sandwiches, that sort of thing, you can find food stands everywhere. We pride ourselves on the quality of our food, and all of our vendors use fresh, healthy ingredients from local farms. Don't forget the special events we planned for the anniversary.
It's probably in the local form. Oh, that's not right. I think he just told me about the land for this, but I just forgot about it. That's fine. Let's go on.
Celebration. There are 2 main events today, and they're both free. The first is the afternoon parade. It kicks off at noon, so arrive a bit early if you want a good view. The best place to see it is along the main street. It's all organized by final year school students. You'll see some gymnastics and
Maybe it's on the main street, I guess.
acrobatics, hear music from a marching band, and see some fantastic floats. The parade has become one of our feature events of the year. The second big event today is an evening concert, which takes place at our main amphitheater. The concert features singing and dancing, costumes and lights, and there's a different theme each year. This year, the theme is Hollywood.
This year, the theme for this concert is Hollywood.
And it's all about classic style and old.
Oh, I suddenly realized one thing. Even though I could, get the answer for those blanks, but I couldn't write it down. This could be my problem.
Films. The concert starts at 7 p.m., but try to arrive by 6:45. Now, I know you're all eager to get out there and have fun, but before you go, I'm just going to tell you some information about safety and security. If anyone needs medical attention, we have help available. You can see on this map that next to the visitor center, which is where we are now, of course, can you see this red dot? Yes, so that is one of our 10 first aid centers.
10 first aid centers.
If you get hurt, all you need to do is ask a member of staff to direct you towards the nearest one. And kids, remember, if something happens, you get lost, and you can't find your parents, please tell someone who works at the park. Just look for someone dressed in the Lunar Realm colors, and they will assist you. And for anyone who has a problem of any sort, you can come and talk to a member of our security team at any one of the many guard stations.
At any one of the guard stations.
Those are the blue dots here on the map.
Okay, I think I could understand all those words he just told me, or she just told me, but maybe I couldn't write it down. Okay, so this is a section 2. It still seems to be understandable for me. Now, let's go to the next one, the section 3.
Section 3. Between a peer tutor and an engineering student who needs help with a project. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 24.
Okay, I got some time to look at those questions. Design a water treatment system. Tutorial structure. Think about the research. Search online databases. Use good search terms.
Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 24.
Okay.
Hi, John. Thanks for seeing me today. I'm really struggling with my project. I have to come up with a design for a water treatment system, and I'm really not sure what I'm expected to do.
Well, as peer tutors, we've been taught to follow a process in these tutorials, okay? The first step is to look closely at the task instructions.
That sounds good. I'm also, well, we've been told to do some research, but I don't know where to start.
It's always hard to start with. We've got about 45 minutes today. That should give us some time to go over it. Have you done much research before?
No, this is my first project like this, and I'm really stressing out about it. I went to a seminar about research at the start of the year, but I've forgotten most of it.
Well, that's fine, because the next step in our tutorial will be to consider some common research strategies that you can use to get started. With engineering, a lot of the projects you do are practical, so you can think about how you can access other people's write-ups of similar projects.
Yes, that sounds useful. How do I find those?
Well, there's always the online databases, but you need to know what search terms to use. So, can you think of any useful terms?
Cameroon, I guess, and maybe grey water?
Yes, good, but those might not give you many hits. What about the type of research? I've always found it helpful to search for case studies, you know? There's probably a whole lot of those on systems set up for other villages in developing countries that you could look at. I've got a couple here, actually. They're on different topics, but we can look at the structure and develop some useful ways to focus your research. Is there anything else you'd like to look at today?
Okay, for the step 3 is to develop some structure or end structure. And for this one, maybe go over the tutorial. I forgot about that. Maybe I should try to listen to this again so that I could answer those questions.
Me today. I'm really struggling with my project. I have to come up with a design for a water treatment system, and I'm really not sure what I'm expected to do.
Well, as peer tutors, we've been taught to follow a process in these tutorials, okay? The first step is to look closely at the task instructions.
Okay, the first step is to get to look those task details or task structures. I guess that's what he said.
That sounds good. I'm also, well, we've been told to do some research, but I don't know where to start.
It's always hard to start with. We've got about 45 minutes today. That should give us some time to go over it. Have you done much research before?
No, this is my first project like this, and I'm really stressing out about it. I went to a seminar about research at the start of the year, but I've forgotten most of it.
Well, that's fine, because the next step in our tutorial will be to consider some common research strategies that you can use to get started.
Think about the research strategies that we can use, I think.
With engineering, a lot of the projects you do are practical, so you can think about how you can access other people's write-ups of similar projects.
Yes, that sounds useful. How do I find those?
Well, there's always the online
Consider the kind of research.
databases, but you need to know what search terms to use. So, can you think of any useful terms?
Cameroon, I guess, and maybe grey water?
Yes, good, but those might not give you many hits. What about the type of research? I've always found it helpful to search for case studies, you know? There's probably a whole lot of those on systems set up for other villages in developing countries that you could look at. I've got a couple here, actually. They're on different topics, but we can look at the structure and develop some useful ways to focus your research. Is there anything else you'd like to look at today?
I guess for the section 3, it's start to getting a little bit hard to understand. I mean, it's not like you do not know any words of what he said. You know maybe 80% of what he said, but you couldn't, for example, answer the 23.
I can't think of anything right now. That all sounds good.
Great. Then the next step is to come up with an action plan. How long have you got?
To finish the project? 4 weeks, I think. It's due on the 6th.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 25 to 30.
Okay, let's look at this. You need to design a grey water treatment system to reduce the pressure on the water. No, I do not understand why we need to design such a system and how can we reduce the pressure on the water. In water analogy, the grey water is wastewater from household. Oh, it's some polluted water. The system needs to treat this water to remove some bad stuff from it. So we have to write no more than one word for each answer. So for each blank, we only need one single word. So let's go on.
Now listen and answer questions 25 to 30.
Right, let's start with the project requirements then. You've got them there? Great. Let's see. Tell me what you understand about the task.
So we need to create a system for grey water treatment so that we can minimise the strain on the overloaded water supply in a village in Cameroon.
That's right.
But I don't get the details about the type of system and what it needs to be used for.
Okay, we'll come back to the type of system in a minute. It says here grey water. Have you learnt about grey water?
No, I missed the lecture.
Okay, so it's the water we use in our houses, but not in the toilet. The water that goes down the drains, not into sewage. It can be recycled because it's relatively clean. So what might the water treatment system try to do?
Treat it and direct it somewhere else?
Exactly. Why treat it?
Oh, right. I get it. Because it's still going to have bacteria in it. That's why it needs to be treated.
That's right. And then when it's treated, what could it be used for?
Something else, like irrigation in gardens?
Yes, there are other practical uses too, inside the house.
For toilet systems? Oh, what about for laundry?
Yes, exactly. That's a good example.
Doing laundry.
Okay, that's pretty clear now. Thanks.
Great. Now, let's think about the type of research you might need to do.
I'll need to look at different types of water treatment systems, so I know the pros and cons of each one.
Good. Where would you look first?
The internet?
Yes, but be careful. Remember, you're likely to find a lot of biased websites. You know, manufacturers wanting to advertise their brands.
Advertise trying to sell their products.
It might be better to use the engineering library.
I'm not too confident about using the library, to be honest. It's so hard finding the right resources.
It's often about choosing the best search terms to put into the catalogue search field.
Yeah, I try to do that. Like water treatment?
That might be too broad.
Grey water treatment systems?
That's more like it. And you'll need to search for systems designed for residential, not commercial use. There's
Residential use here. This is how we should fill it, or what we should fill into that. But to be honest, I don't know how to spell it out. I don't know how to write it down.
big difference.
I usually end up borrowing a massive pile of books, then get home and find they're useless.
Try reading through the contents before you take them out. Flick through to relevant sections. Often it helps to read parts. Not all the way through, but...
Just to get the main idea.
That's right. Oh, and I see this as an EWB project. Have you seen the website? It might have some exemplars of the winning designs from last year's competition.
No.
For the winning design.
I saw that and didn't know what EWB meant.
Engineering Without Borders is what it stands for.
Engineering Without Borders. Okay. So for this one, let's say this is probably the section 3. This one, it's got here. I couldn't answer the 25 and 26 because I don't know what he was talking about at that time. And after that, it's okay. Then let's go to the section 4. Start to think that maybe I should do more practice on this because I don't know how to solve them.
Section 4. You will hear a talk on the topic of the caveman diet. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to
Caveman, which means a man or those people who lives in cave.
40.
No, maybe that's not right. It's just the people who live in the old days, maybe thousands of years ago.
Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
Hello everyone, do you use the internet? If I ask you what is the single most common topic for advertisements on the net, I suspect ads for weight loss would win hands down. After all, dieting is one of our current obsessions. We've all heard of the Atkins diet, the macrobiotic, and the South Beach diet, the raw food eating ban. All of these fad diets and many more promise that you will lose kilos and live a healthy life if you just follow their ban. Today we're going to discuss one of the most well-known Western diets, the paleo or caveman diet. Firstly, what is this diet and where did it come from? Proponents of this diet argue that we need need to return to basics, that is, to what our forebears ate many years ago. They say that our bodies are not well suited to digest complex carbohydrates such as grains and legumes. We should be eating a hunter-gatherer diet, rich in lean meat, fish, nuts and berries, and without wheat, oats or other grains that came into our diet after the invention of agriculture. Sounds logical, doesn't it? But let's look a little closer. The first question to ask about the caveman diet is, what did our ancestors actually eat? One way to discover this is to study the diets of existing hunter-gatherer tribes. Although these groups do tend to regard meat as the best source of food, they often have difficulty in finding. In Africa, for example, over 50% of the time, the Bushmen tribes come home empty-handed from their hunting expedition, despite being very skillful with equipment such as bows and arrows. So what do they eat when they can't get meat? Well, the wives come to the fore then, foraging for and cooking local fasts. Most of the groups eat a lot of fasts. These range through a huge variety of local species, including nuts, plantains and yams, and evidence suggests that this was true of our ancient ancestors as well. Researchers suggest that these people would eat more meat if they could get it, but in fact only approximately a third of their calories comes from this protein and fat-rich source. Research shows that when these groups...
Okay. For now, I must say that I couldn't, even understand one sentence he just said, because I think he is trying to speak something, right? But I couldn't understand it because maybe in my daily life I wouldn't get such information because I do not care about the old people. I mean the caveman living status, and I do not care what kind of stuff, what kind of food they eat. So that's why I just couldn't understand what he was trying to talk about immediately. So this might be a big challenge for those people like me, to understand this one. But I think we can handle it as long as we do those practice.
Come into contact with the Western diet, their health suffers. Once they're exposed to our diet of refined carbohydrates and sugars, they quickly develop our lifestyle-related diseases. However, that does not mean that the human digestive system is suited to digesting only a few sources of food, nor that it cannot change to accommodate different food sources. In fact, the evidence would suggest exactly the opposite. As a species, we are able to make significant modifications to our digestive systems according to what foods are available in our local environment. Examples abound, and our ability to digest lactose is a good one. Lactose is a sugar that is found in milk, and it is digested in the human gut by the enzyme lactase. In communities in Europe, the Middle East, and Africa that traditionally herd cattle and drink cow's milk, this enzyme is present, and people can digest milk products. However, in places such as China and Thailand, which do not have this style of diet, the enzyme is lacking, and most people have lactose intolerance. Another example is the ability to digest the sugars from starchy foods. Communities that eat a lot of these foods have saliva that breaks down starchy foods before they reach the gut, whereas other groups have more difficulty in getting nutrition from high starch sources. In fact, if you look at indigenous cultures around the world, there is a huge variety of successful diets. The Inuit get nearly all of their energy from high-fat sources, such as seal meat. The Jains in India have religious beliefs which prohibit eating any living thing, including eggs, but which do, however, allow for the consumption of milk products. Other groups eat mostly fish or have an insect-based diet, depending on locally available sources of protein. So the idea that our caveman ancestors ate one homogeneous diet, and that if we follow this we can all be healthy, would seem to be an oversimplification. Diets are the result of complex cultural dietary practices. People can and will eat just about anything. So if we can eat a variety of diets, is there anything actually wrong with following the caveman? Well, firstly, on a practical level, it's an expensive way to get your daily calories. Few of us can afford to satisfy all of our energy requirements on a diet which depends on lean wild meat and nut oils. A few carbohydrates provide a cheap, filling and substantial energy boost for most. Secondly, a diet which includes a large portion of red meat may not be good for our long-term health. If our bodies are adapted to a sedentary lifestyle and a plant-based diet, we simply get less exercise than our ancestors did, and so we are more prone to some illnesses than they were. Finally, if we all start to eat a wild meat-based diet, this will have negative implications for the environment because it's not a sustainable eat a lot.
That is the end.
Alright. Okay, for this one, it's definitely harder than before, than what we heard before. But if I'm really doing this exam, the strategies that I would use for the section 4 would be just be focusing on what he just said, and I would just ignore all those texts because it's very hard to listen to that audio while reading those texts. I cannot do that. But what I could do is to concentrate on the audio itself, try to understand what he just said, and then after I I got the idea, I go back to fulfill those texts. Maybe it's hard for this one because you have to fill them, but for the section like this, it will be much easier. Okay, now I got the idea of why. For this exam, they got a lot of blank box that you have to fill some text because it will generally increase the difficulty for you to answer. For example, you have to remember those words and then you have to write it down. Oh, that was hard. Academic reading. What is this? Can we read those things? Okay, I got it. So you have to pass this exam. To pass it, you have to basically understand every word and every sentence they tell you. So let me try to do that. Some consumers choose to purge bottled drinking water rather than relying on city-type water supplies. So it says that some people, they wanted to buy those water that already bottled. I mean, in a letterbox. In a letterbox. Yeah, that's also right. Rather than drinking those water from those pipeline. I think that's right. Bottled water has typically been extracted from underground sources. If water exists underground but has no natural exact points, bottling companies may construct a water table well by drilling down to extract water from an unconfined aquifer. This is done when the Earth's natural water level, known as a water table, is much lower than the Earth's surface. In some cases, as with a valley or gully on a mountain, the level of the water table may be higher than the Earth's surface, and a natural spring can emerge. Bottling companies are permitted to extract this water from a hole drilled into the underground spring, but the composition of the water must be identical to that of the naturally sourcing variety nearby. 那如果我们用中文来讲这一段话的话，它就是在讲有些人喜欢喝瓶装水，而不是喝这个水管里流出来的水。然后他又讲了一些个采水公司，比如说像农夫山泉这些人去从地下去提取这些地下水之类的。Artesian water is drawn from a confined aquifer, a deep underground cavity of porous rock that holds water and bears pressure from a confining layer above it. This water can be accessed if companies draw a vertical channel down into the confined aquifer. Due to the pressured nature of this aquifer, water will often rise up from within it and form a flowing artesian well, which appears as an explosive fountain at the Earth's surface. However, this only occurs when the surface is lower than the natural water table. If the surface is not lower than the natural water table, it is still possible to draw the artesian water by using an extraction pump. 哇，好奇怪，他这边讲这个，他说如果你取水的这个地方的水比这个地球的水平面低的话，它会喷出来；要是比它高的话就不会。怎么会这样呢？ Some bottled water is advertised as purified, which means it has been subjected to a variety of different lasting processes. A common filtering procedure known as reverse osmosis involves the water being pressured through microscopic membranes that prevent larger contaminants from passing through. The microscopic size of these holes is such that they can even obstruct the germs, but they are most effective against undesirable materials such as salts, nitrates, and linseed. One disadvantage of reverse osmosis is that a lot of unusable water is generated by us as a byproduct of the procedure. This must be drawn away. Well, I couldn't understand this paragraph. For treating test organ, an impressive newer option is ultraviolet light. Powerful UV light has natural antibacterial qualities, so this process simply requires water to be subjected to sufficient streams of UV light as it passes through a treatment chamber. The light neutralizes many harmful germs by removing their DNA, thereby whatever their ability to replicate. The overall effects of UV light treatment are variable, however, which leaves many water treatment process relying on, this is a word that I don't know, its powerful and comprehensive antimicrobial effects. Notwithstanding, it's also extremely inexpensive and remains the only whatever treatment capable of ensuring water remains contaminants-free all the way through the pipes and to the taps of domestic homes. Many members of the public remain suspicious of water that has been treated with such a harsh chemical. Its ease of use and whatever has meant that often plays an important role in making water supplies safe for consumption immediately after natural diseases have occurred. So for maybe this 1, 2, 3 paragraph that we just read, it's talking about how can we purify the water after we get them from the underground. Some water also undergoes distillation. This involves water being boiled until it converts to steam, which then passes through a cooling tube and becomes water again. So what I said is that some water needs to be boiled before we send it to those people. Okay. But this also has some bad part. For example, if you drink that kind of water every day, you may not be able to take the mineral supplements. In developed countries, all forms of drinking water are typically subject to stringent quality control processes, so there is little evidence to suggest importing bottled water at significant expense will be safer or healthier than regular tap water from the drinking supply system. Okay, so for this paragraph, what he said is that for those developed countries, we do not call those country advanced country, but developed country. For those country, we could just drink those water from the pipeline. We don't have to boil it. That's what we normally would do in China, but in those developed countries, we don't have to do that. Okay, then after we have read those paragraphs, I mean those passages, can we just answer those questions? I think we could. Let me just try it. Choose no more than 3 words from the passage for each answer. Choose no more than 3 words for those answers. Okay, we're gonna have to answer those questions. Let me try it out. The first one provides access to treated water. Provides access to treated water. What is the treated water? So we have to choose some words. Oh, I don't know that. Let me go to the next one. Due to the lower than the level. What is that? Oh, I got it. So here you can see those numbers on the picture 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And what it asks us is to choose some words that could represent those things. Flowing artisan wheel looks like what? Looks like an explosive fountain. I can only answer that. For the 5, this is what? This is what necessary to access this water source. This is a bomb. I think we can get it from here. It's an extraction pump. So for the 5 questions, I could only answer the last 2. Maybe we could also answer the 3 because here it's called unconverted amplifier. Maybe this is just an amplifier. I don't know. And for the following, classify the following statements as referring to what? It continues to protect water as it is being transported. So for the 4 words, they represent one part of the water purifying process. Oh, now I know this one. The UV night treatment. It means it will use a night to get the water purified. Oh, sorry, to get the water, make the water better. Yeah, I think this is kind of hard to to answer unless you literally read all those paragraphs from the start to end. Well, I think I suddenly got something to do. I start to realize that I may still not be good enough at the language, the English thing. So I have to still doing the learning for the languages so that I could pass the exam. Let's see, how do they call this exam? They call it Ielts. Let me do a translation.
Ielts.
Alright, they call it Ielts. So for anyone in this earth, if they want to claim that they have a strong knowledge on the English, or if they want to claim that they have already mastered the English, they should take this exam and try to get a high score on it. Only by doing so, we could, or other people could make sure that yes, you are indeed good at this. Then you could basically go to anywhere you want in this world if they speak English. Alright, so this is today's video. I hope you find a new goal and start to have more motivations on what you wanted to do, because you only when you see those difficulties you will start to have those fighting will again, because you even didn't meet the basic line yet. Alright, that's it. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.